Welcome back to Basic General Knowledge Voice Podcast. Today we're diving into the fascinating world of art. Hey Rachel, ready to test your art knowledge?
Oh, absolutely. I love art history. Fire away with your questions, Beta.
Let's start with perhaps the most famous painting in the world. Who painted the Mona Lisa?
Hmm. Wasn't it Michelangelo?
Actually, it was Leonardo da Vinci. He painted it in the early 16th century, and it's now housed in the Louvre Museum in Paris. Speaking of which, have you ever heard of Surrealism?
Yes. That's Salvador Dali's movement, right? With all those melting clocks and strange, dreamlike imagery?
Exactly. The painting you're thinking of is called The Persistence of Memory. Dali was a master of Surrealism, which explored the unconscious mind and dreams. Now, here's a trickier one. What's the technique called when artists use tiny dots to create an image?
Oh, that's a tough one. Is it stippling?
Close, but not quite. It's called Pointillism. Artists like Georges Seurat would use small, distinct dots of color that blend together in the viewer's eye to form an image. Speaking of unique techniques, do you know what a fresco is?
Is that when they paint directly onto walls?
Almost. More specifically, it's painting on wet plaster. Michelangelo used this technique for the Sistine Chapel ceiling. And speaking of famous artworks, who painted the Starry Night?
That's Vincent van Gogh. I love how he used those swirling patterns in the sky.
Perfect. Now, let's talk about sculpture. What's the name of Rodin's famous sculpture of a man sitting and thinking?
That's the thinker. I've always wondered what he's pondering about.
And for our last question, what do you call a painting of fruits, flowers, or other inanimate objects?
That would be, a nature painting?
Close! It's actually called a still life. Artists like Paul Cézanne were masters of the genre, creating beautiful compositions of everyday objects.
Wow, I've learned so much today. Art history is really fascinating when you break it down like this.